Good morning, Year 6, and welcome to Wednesday's literacy lesson. We're going to start with spelling, and we've been looking this week at the ant suffix. So in our word list, we've got abundant, brilliant, constant, distant, dominant, elegant, fragrant, ignorant, tolerant, and vacant. Now we're halfway through the week, and this is a good opportunity to double check, do you know how to spell your words? And we're going to do it in a little fun way. So you can see there's a link behind me here on the board, and you're going to go onto that link. And when you do, you will find a quiz that looks like this. It's words ending in ant, ants, and antsy. And this is looking forward, looking ahead to the next couple of weeks when we're going to be looking at those kinds of words. Okay, so have a little go at the quiz. There's a series of multiple choice questions. Tap the correct answer. All right, hopefully you'll have lots of fun. Pause the video, have a go. Okay, Year 6, hopefully you have done really well with your spellings. We're going to quickly move ahead now, and we're going to have a little look at our handwriting. So today we're going to have a little look at the letter D. Okay, so we've got discovered, underground, door, address, abridged. These are all words which we will find in today's text. And hopefully by practicing our handwriting, you're really going to get to grips with your cursive font. Okay, so let's have a little look then at how we're going to join our letter D. So the first word we've got is discovered. So I'm going to lead into my D, nice and tall, S-C-O-V-E-R-E, and then nice and tall at the end, D again. And we need to try and get that S the same size as our other letters. Okay, so just making sure those lowercase are the same size, the same height. Okay, and our D's are the same nice tall height as well. Okay, so now we're going to have a little go at underground. So we're going to lead into underground. Remember our nice loop on our G, and then we've got our two tall D's there as well. Let's do another one. So into our U, D, E, R, loop G, our G sits on the line, and then we finish with a nice tall D at the end. Okay, I'm going to scroll my board up just slightly. We've got door, address, and abridged that we are going to be looking at. Okay, so door, I lead into the D, nice and tall, then two O's and into the R. Okay, let's do that again. Lead into the D, nice and tall, two O's, and into the R. Okay, then we're going to have a little go at address, two D's in this one. So we've got A, nice and tall for our D's, R, and the S's, make sure they are the same height. Okay, still seeing a few little S's when you're practicing your handwriting that are a little bit taller than others, so just be careful. And then finally, abridged. All right, so abridged means that it's adapted, it's shortened. Okay, there we go. Let's try again. Lead into the A, nice tall B, R, nice tall D again, looped, oops, I was doing an R then. Okay, nice looped G into the E and D at the end. Okay, so for this one, you will need your purple books. You'll need something to write with. You're going to put the learning question, can I use consistent cursive joins? And then what you're going to do is you're going to do 2 lines of each of the words that are in our text today that are on the board. So we've got discovered, underground, door, address, abridged. You might want to do a line, leave a line, do a line, leave a line, do a line, because then you won't get your descenders and ascenders merging into one another. All right, so I'm looking forward to seeing some super cursive handwriting. Pause the video, off you go. Right, year six, let's have a look at what our main activity is today then. So we're going to be looking in our comprehension book at page 8. And it's a play script today. And I'm going to put it on the board in a minute. But play scripts have stage directions. So I know lots of you have had play scripts as your readers for taking home and reading at home. And you notice that they've got stage directions. And what these stage directions do is they inform actors how and where to deliver their lines. So they give them clues as to how they should be saying them. Okay, they tell them what they should be doing. So they might be walking and doing this or coming on from there. And so they give the actors who are performing these plays, they give them a little bit of direction so they know what to do and how to do it. So what you are going to do is you are going to look at book 5, page 8. It's the one with the owl on the front. And you are going to have a little look at the stage directions. You're going to look at the extract and see if you can jot down all the stage directions that you can see in the extract. Okay, now, just a little hint. All right, I'll put the page on the board. You can see these little things that say the cemetery. Johnny walks onto the stage carrying his school bag. He sits on a tombstone and addresses the audience. Now, that wouldn't be read by an actor. They wouldn't say that. That's telling the actor where they are, what they're doing at the time when they're going to deliver their line. Okay, so these are what I mean by stage directions. So have a little look at the text. See if you can find different stage directions. Okay, so can you find where it tells the actor what to do, where to go, how to say it? Okay, all right, so you'll need your purple book. You'll need to leave a line where you did your handwriting, and then you can pause the video and have a little go. Find me their stage directions. Okay, year 6, how did you get on? Well, if you were looking carefully, you will have seen I gave you that one, but these are stage directions too because it tells you who is saying. So you should have got Johnny and Wobbler. Okay, then there's Wobbler enters carrying a school bag. Then we've got here, still talking to the audience. Okay, in brackets. Then Wobbler sits next to Johnny, and we've got this sort of, dot, 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 the ellipsis there. And then we've got Wobbler stands and lurches about a bit, arms stretched out in front of him. Then another new thought occurs to him. We've got that. I'm going to just scroll this up a little bit. Okay. So it says, Johnny points at Alderman Bowler's tomb, which has an impressive door, over which is carved pro bono publico. Then you've got, he crosses to the door and knocks, then looking worried. And then we've got Johnny knocks again, the door opens and Alderman Thomas Bowler steps out. Although his face is a bit on the pale side, he looks comparatively normal and is dressed in his civic robes. And then we've got Johnny cries out in surprise and takes a couple of steps back, bumping into Wobbler. Then we've got startled, and then we've got Wobbler starts to walk off but quickly breaks into a run. So those are the different stage directions that you should have spotted today. So hopefully you've spotted all of those. Right, so let's have a little look at the text then. So it's a little bit different. It's a play, as I've said, and it says Johnny and the Dead is a novel by Terry Pratchett, which was turned into a play by Stephen Briggs, and we've got the abridged version of an extract from that play. It tells the story of a 12-year-old boy called Johnny Maxwell, who is amazed to discover that he can see and talk to dead people. And so this extract is from the beginning of the play. So we've got the stage direction. So the cemetery, Johnny walks onto the stage carrying his school bag. He sits on a tombstone and addresses the audience. So then Johnny says, I really discovered the cemetery after I started living at Grandad's, after my parents split up. I started taking a shortcut through here instead of going home on the bus. My pal Wobbler thinks it's spooky. So then Wobbler enters, carrying a school bag. Why do we have to go home this way? I think it's spooky. Johnny still talking to the audience, but I think it's quite friendly, peaceful. One should forget all about the skeletons underground, of course. Wobbler sits next to Johnny. I bet you wouldn't dare knock on one of those doors. You know, one of those doors on those big gravestones. I bet something really horrible would come lurching out. Wobbler stands and lurches about a bit, arms stretched out in front of him. Then another new thought occurs to him. Here, my dad says all this is going to be built on. He says the council sold it to some big company for 5 pence because it was costing too much to keep it going. It's going to be offices and things. And then Johnny says, I'd have given them £1 just to leave it as it is. I bet the people here wouldn't be very happy about it if they knew. So then Johnny points at Alderman Bowler's tomb, which has an impressive door. So it's a really, spectacular, something that shows he must have been a very rich and powerful person. Over which is carved pro bono publico. So it sounds, very grand when you've got sort of like a Latin Latin phrase. And pro bono in sort of lawyer terms means that you're doing something for free, something out of the goodness of your heart. So whether he worked for free for the public, that's possibly what it meant. And it says then, I bet, Johnny says, I bet he's really angry. And so he crosses to the door and he knocks. Wobbler starts to look worried now because his friend has knocked on this door. You mustn't do that. Then Johnny knocks again and the door opens and Alderman Thomas Bowler steps out. Although his face is a bit on the pale side, he looks comparatively normal and is dressed in his civic robe. So we're seeing sort of the ghost of Alderman Thomas Bowler. So Alderman Bowler says yes. Johnny cries out in surprise and takes a couple of steps back, bumping into Wobbler, because I don't think he expected to see him by the sounds of that. Alderman Bowler says, so Johnny cries out in surprise and takes a couple of steps back, bumping into Wobbler. And by that little phrase there, that stage direction, we've got, I don't think that Johnny expected quite to see Alderman Thomas Bowler at all. Okay, so Wobbler says, what? And Johnny says, the door's open. Can't you see it? Wobbler says, no, I can't. There's no point in you trying to frighten me, Look, and I'm late. Bye. So by the sounds of that, we've got a rather scared Wobbler because we've got, no, I can't. He's talking quite quickly, quite and short sentences. There's no point. Excuse me. There's no point in you're trying to frighten me, look, and I'm late. Bye. So it sounds like he is a little bit frightened, but Johnny has just shown that only he can see what's going on. Obviously, Wobbler can't see it. Right. So let's have a little look then at what you're going to be doing today in the questions. So you've got why are lines 1 to 2 important for understanding the script? Okay, so here we go. Just think about what they are. Okay, what do they tell us? And why are they important? We've talked about this, and your opening activity this morning was about exactly stage directions. Okay. So then let's have a little look at the next part. So why do you think the characters' names are written in capital letters? So have a little think. Why are they written in capital letters? What does having them in capital letters do compared to what they actually say? Okay, so you might want to think a little bit about that stage direction. How does that help? If you're reading a play script, if the names are in capital letters, how does that help the actor? Okay. So then, why do you think the playwright chose to repeat the phrase, I bet, on line 11. So let's have a look at line 11. Okay, so I bet, I bet, I bet you wouldn't dare to knock on one of those doors. You know, one of those with big games, big gravestones. I bet something really horrible would come lurching out. So what do you think it's telling you about Wobbler? Okay, so he's sort of Johnny's sort of said, well, I think it's okay, this place. It's a bit, you know, it's calm, it's peaceful. And as long as you forget about the skeletons. But then Wobbler, I bet you wouldn't dare knock on. So what's that telling you? So question 4 says, what do you think Wobbler is doing when he lurches about a bit? Arms stretched in front of him, line 13. So let's have a look at line 13. So it says Wobbler stands and lurches about a bit, arms stretched out in front of him. So what do you think he's doing? You know, it's a sort of a ghost story. If you were asked to sort of perhaps mimic what a ghost would look like, and so you know, in the Scooby-Doo kind of cartoons, what do these sort of the mummies and the ghosts tend to do? Might have a bit of a clue with what I'm doing with my arms. Okay, so might give you a bit of a clue there. And then question 5 says, how do you think Wobbler feels in lines 30 to 32? So we talked a little bit about this. Okay, it's towards the end of the extract. No, I can't. There's no point in you trying to frighten me, you know. Look, anyway, I'm late. Goodbye. And then it says, Wobbler starts to walk off, but quickly breaks into a run. So what does that tell you about Wobbler? Okay, how is he feeling? Okay, he starts walking, but then he starts running off. And it's sort of, he suddenly remembers he's got to do something. Has he really? So let's have a look then at the, it says Johnny speaks directly to both the audience and the characters on stage. Why do you think the playwright chose to do this? Okay, so have a little think. When you're in a story, when you're writing a story, you can tell us or you can show us how an actor, the character, sorry, is feeling. But in a play, we can't always gauge that, and you can't tell us how they're thinking because they're acting it out. So the only reason we know how what a character is feeling, is by his actions when he's doing a scene, or by directly addressing the audience and telling us a little bit, you know, talking to us, and then we can see, that's what he's thinking, that's what he's processing. Okay, so that might be a little bit of help for that particular question. And then we've got, what book would you like to be turned into a play? So have you got a favourite book of yours that you would like to be seen turned into a play? Something that you've read that you think, do you know what, that would make a really good play, and I'd love to go and see that on the stage. So it might be one of your books from home, it might be a book that you've read, it might be one of our books that we've covered in our text. You might want to look back in the books that you have, some of the extracts that you've read in both of the books that we've covered in our reading comprehension activities, and there might be something in there you think, do you know what, I'd really like to see that as a play. And then you explain why. Why do you think it would make a really good play? Is it because it's got an interesting story? Is it because it's an interesting, some interesting characters? So have a little think. Okay. Excuse me. So next thing, when you've answered all of those questions, I've got a little bit of a challenge for you. So I'm going to put it on the board. So this is the challenge. So you're going to complete the questions on page 9 in the book. And then the challenge is this. You're going to rewrite the play as a short story, just that little scene as a short little story. Okay, so I've given it at the start a bit, so you can perhaps use this as your little opener. And then what goes on in the rest of it? Tell it as a story. So I've got Johnny discovered the cemetery after his parents split up, and he started living with his granddad in his granddad's house. That should say, not with his granddad's house, but in his living in his granddad's house. He used it as a shortcut instead of going home on the bus. Okay, so rewrite the play as a short story. Johnny discovered the cemetery after his parents split up, and he started living in his granddad's house. Right, okay. So, when you've answered all of the questions, what you're going to do is this little challenge. So, you are going to write the play script as a little short story. Instead of it being written out with stage directions, etc., you're going to use all of those kind of things and create a little story of the scene. So it says rewrite the play as a short story, and I've given you an opener. So you can use this and then carry on the rest of the extract as a story. So Johnny discovered the cemetery after his parents split up, and he started living in his granddad's house. He used it as a shortcut instead of going home on the bus. So then what you're going to do is you're going to tell me the rest of that story, and using all of the lovely ideas that are in the play script. Okay, so good luck with all of that. I'm sure you're going to have great fun turning it into a story, and I look forward to seeing your work when you've completed it later on today. All right, you take care, and I shall see you tomorrow. Bye, everybody. Bye-bye.